See, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Great. All right.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to today's session, Go with the Flow. My name is Monica Corda. I'm with the Tech Collective, and we're thrilled to have you here. For those of you who don't know, Tech Collective is the IT association for the state of Rhode Island. So we provide not only sessions like these, they just kind of give you some overview information onto a tool or a topic that's, right up and coming, but we also provide training sessions such as customer service, certified Scrum Master, and ethical hacker. For those of you who are looking to expand your knowledge base, you can always look at our website for those upcoming tools and information. So this is a part one, and Catherine Tenno has volunteered to do this for us. She is from APSO. She's worked in Power Platforms, SharePoint. She is a member, facilitator, trainer for APSO. This is really her wheelhouse and what she loves to do. So this is our overview session. And then on the 27th from 12 until 1 will be the real session of like the how-to. So if you find this intriguing, I will put in the chat close to the end of the session, I'll put that link as well. Please sign up for that and share the information with your team if you feel this is something that would really benefit those of you who are looking to make your lives easier. It certainly sounds like a tool that will save us time. So Catherine, I am going to give the reins over to you. We look forward to finding out all the information that you have for us.
Thanks so much, Monica and Carissa. We're going to talk about Power Automate, which used to be called Flow. So that's why it says Go with the Flow. And it's a great tool to streamline your business processes. My name is Catherine Tenno, and you can reach me at these different places. The slide deck will be available, so you don't have to, try and capture everything on the slides. And if you have any questions, post them in chat. And if we have time, I'll answer them. And if not, we'll see if we can't get the answers either for the next time we get together or somehow out to you. Today, we're just going to be talking about the Power Automate tool, Microsoft's tool, and try and understand, why it might be useful, what you can do with it, some of its basic components, and how to get started, and what are its costs if you're not currently using it. Power Automate is part of Microsoft's Power Platform on Office 365. Power Platform is a suite of products that are used to empower just ordinary business users without requiring the use of developers or other IT staff. And it's a cloud-based service that helps users create these automated workflows between different applications and services. And it's a tool that allows individuals, but also departmental or even organizational repetitive tasks to be automated. Any licensed user can use Power Automate, and it doesn't require developer or other IT skills, as I mentioned. Just what's most important is the knowledge of the business process. And when you use this tool to automate these repetitive tasks, as in anything we automate, it leads to a consistent way for a task to get handled. It's usually more efficient because the workflow tool will do part of the work for you. It has tracking and logging ability, so you can track who approved things or who did things at what time. So as in any type of automation, there's great efficiencies to handling things the consistent way. Power Automate allows you to automate these processes over hundreds of different connectors, and they keep growing all the time. There's over 400 different connectors to applications and services that you can leverage with the Power Automate tool. It works on your browser, like Office 365, and it also works on mobile devices. So you can actually build these workflows on a mobile device, and you can certainly manage them and access them through your mobile device. It was called Flow in the past, so you may see reference to that name, but it was rebranded to Power Automate to fit in with the rest of the Power Platform topics by Microsoft. And if any of you ever used the SharePoint Designer workflow or are familiar with that, it is the tool that will replace that. But where SharePoint Designer really operated in SharePoint and would had the ability to send out notifications or emails, Power Automate is much more robust and has a lot more capabilities and many more applications and services it can access. I thought I'd give you some examples of way we've leveraged this tool in our organization. There's a built-in approval action that you can use to request approvals. So if we have someone in our organization who would like to go to an offsite seminar, that used to be handled in a very, you'd go talk to someone or email them or fill out a form if you were very good. But now what happens is a online form is filled in and the approval is sent to your manager, who validates that they know you're going and that there's no local training if there's some travel involved, that they really know what's going on. And once they approve it, it goes on for another approval to the HR department who's responsible for funding that request. And once they've approved that, it moves on to purchasing, who's responsible for fulfilling that. So again, it's all handled automatically, it's all tracked, and you don't lose any steps in the process. I have a flow that saves all my email attachments to a library in my OneDrive, and that way I don't have to go searching through my emails. I can clean up my email box and just all of those documents get saved to my OneDrive. We have some flows that go out and look at either lists or task lists and send out weekly reminders about things that maybe are overdue or are pending. And it's a great tool to move information from one connector to another. For example, from a Microsoft form to a SharePoint list or spreadsheet. From if you post a YouTube video, you could tweet about it. And so when you load the YouTube, the flow would know that and send a tweet. It could post to MailChimp or add something to MailChimp. So there's many, many different ways of moving information from one connector to another. Maybe I want to get a task when something happens. If I get an email from a client or from my boss, I can create a task so I can follow up on it and be sure I follow up on it. So those are just some examples of ways you might leverage it. There's many more. I want to talk about 5 key concepts within Power Automate. Connectors, which I've talked about, are the applications and services that Power Automate can leverage. And as I said, that continues to grow. When I looked on Monday, there are 432 different connectors. A trigger is how a flow gets started. And there's a bunch of different ways, and there's a bunch of different ways that a connector can trigger a flow. After a trigger has happened, within the flow, there's different actions, and that's what the services can do. They can do reads or create records or create emails. They can send notifications. They can start an approval process. They can post to a Teams channel for those of you using Microsoft Teams. They can do something in YouTube, MailChimp. Actions are all the things you can do with the application, with the connectors within the flow. You have the ability to do conditions in your flow where you can choose different action paths based on maybe a status code, whether something was approved or rejected. And so you have the ability to put these conditions within your flow. And templates, I'll talk a bit about, are a bunch of many pre-built flows that have been built by Microsoft and are available for you to get you started, so you don't have to sort of create things from scratch. It's really great to just start something with a template, maybe customize it a little, or just use it as is. There are 5 types of flows in Power Automate. And we're mostly going to focus this week and in 2 weeks on the cloud flows, which are these first 3 flows. And these are flows that you create and you can either share with someone. so that they become maybe more departmental or organizational in nature. But the real difference between these three flows is how they are triggered. An automated flow is triggered by an event. An email comes in, a YouTube video is posted, a SharePoint record is created, something happens in Teams or a planner task. So the automated cloud flows are triggered by an event. Instant cloud flows are triggered when you want them to run. So that could happen by pushing a button on your mobile app on your phone. For example, maybe I want to have an email of the weather for the next 5 days at my current location. So the flow can read my GPS location on my phone and send me an email with the weather for the next 5 days. Or an instant flow could also be triggered by going to a SharePoint list item and clicking on the automate taskbar on that individual item and starting a flow. The final type of cloud flow is scheduled. You get to choose when and how often it runs. If you want to get a weekly reminder about all your outstanding tasks or a monthly summary of all the activity that happened in a certain process, scheduled flows are, start and run as frequently as you define. Desktop flows and business process flows are a little more complex. The desktop flows, which used to be called UI flows, are a type of robotic process automation. And this one type of flow requires an additional piece of software that's available that you run as a desktop app. It basically allows you to interact with legacy applications. And it allows you to interact with these legacy applications. For example, you might collect client information and need to enter it into an old CRM system or some other type of old system, processing system. And so it allows you to map from your form into this legacy software and automate that process. Business process flows allows you to guide users through a multi-step process. For example, in employee onboarding, you might have multiple flows that you want to run as part of that process, and you'd like to sort of sequence them. For example, you might have send a new employee an email, or send a new employee's team an email informing them that the person is starting. You might want to send a bunch of tasks to your help desk. But whatever that onboarding process is or other business process, you can sort of sequence the steps and make sure that they happen in an orderly fashion and that they're all addressed. So that's a business process flow. I'm going to talk about connectors in a little more depth. Connectors are a way for Power Automate to interact with an underlying service. And it allows users to connect their individual account or possibly a service account to that service and leverage all those pre-built actions and triggers that are available. Many of the connectors are just available as part of Power Automate, especially the Microsoft ones, but in addition, there may be ones that require an additional licensing or fee, and those are called premium connectors. And you can see them because they have that little green box under them that says premium. A final note about connectors, if one of those 432 connectors don't meet your needs, you do have the ability to create custom connectors to applications that have services that have an API. And you probably might need some IT help for that. And I mentioned this before, but it's somewhat important that connectors operate as a licensed account, usually you, when you get started. But as you develop a more mature or robust model, if you want to start using these for an organization and making sure that the flow works when someone leaves the company, for example, you want to set up those to operate with like a service account. All right, I'm going to do a little demo now. To get to Flow, you can just go to flow.microsoft.com. And that takes you into Power Automate. You can also get to Power Automate from your Office 365 tenant by your app launcher. And if you go into all apps, it will be right down here, Power Automate. When you come into the Power Automate homepage, there's a few things you can do. You can watch a quick video, which will tell you about Power Automate. You can start building a flow from a template. It will tell you about some of the different connectors that are available. Okay, there were 432 on Monday, and now there's 439, so Microsoft's always adding some. It'll give you some different templates or ways to get started. So mostly this homepage is all about getting started. But over here, you can also see the flows you've created, templates, and connectors. I'm just going to show you the connectors for a second. If I click on connectors, it's going to show me the most popular connectors I can use, recently added connectors, and all of the connectors. And if I'm interested in using a particular, trying to find some templates for a particular connector, I can just search. It'll show me the connectors that have that in it, and I can choose the connector, and it will show me all of these templates that involve the thing I searched for, in this case, Twitter. You'll notice in these little templates that are available that there's little icons, and you can see that the little Twitter logo is an icon that shows that this template involves Twitter, and it also has a little logo of SharePoint. So you know that those are the two applications or services that are involved in that template. So this will allow you to save tweets that include a specific hashtag to a SharePoint list. I'm going to go back to just templates to look at all the templates that are available. And you can see there's a great many, but I'm just going to show you very quickly what it'd be like to start a flow from a template. Here's a basic one, which I referenced before, where you can save Office 365 email attachments to OneDrive for Business. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can see that there's, oh, that's not working very well. I'm just going to pick that one. You can see that I can, when I pick that one, save Office 365 email attachments to OneDrive for Business, it again shows me that this interacts with Office 365 Outlook, OneDrive for Business, and it also has a delay component. As I move down, you can see that it tells me that this flow is going to connect to Office 365 Outlook, and it tells me that it's going to connect as my company email license user. And the same thing for OneDrive. I have the ability here to change it to a different account. And again, as you develop more mature models, we'd encourage, maybe a service account, so that when the person if leaves the company, that the flow would continue to work. But anyway, once you're sure that this is what you want to either do or start with, you can just go ahead and create the flow. Once a flow is created, you get into a home page about that flow. You can see up here on the top, there's the name of the flow. There's the details about the flow. On the bottom, there's a history of when it's run, and since we just created it, that we don't have a run history. It again tells you about your connections, which is your connectors with the account they're running as, and who owns this flow. If you actually want to see what the flow does, you can click on Edit, and it will take you into the flow, which has a very nice sort of workflow feel, and you have on a new email, which is your trigger event, when a new email arrives, just click these boxes to see a little bit more information. It's going to tell me, it's going to look for new email coming into my inbox. And if I look at the advanced options, I can see that it's going to do it when the email includes an attachment. So I have ways to filter it. I can add, is there a particular subject I'm looking for? So as you get into the Power Automate, there's all these additional, great way to drill down and get into the detail. And then what it's going to do is it's going to save each attachment. So if I see that it's going to do this loop where it will, for each attachment on the email, it's going to create a file and save it. Let's see where it's going to save it. I have the ability to choose the folder that it's going to go into in my OneDrive. And this is just the way that it's going to save the file. And you don't have to know this. It's just doing it for you because it's templated. The only thing you really might want to change is what folder it goes into. One of the reasons I love templates is there's just a little bit of a more robust way of thinking that these have than if I was trying to create something from scratch. This has a little error checking built into it. And basically what it does is just says, if there's an error, it's going to wait 30 seconds and try saving the file again. And if there is no error, it's just going to end. So that's all I'm going to show you and how you sort of create flows. We'll do more in 2 weeks. All right, I just wanted to see if, just clarify who can use Power Automate. I've said a number of times, it doesn't have to be an information technology pro. It really can be, just someone who's comfortable using technology and who most importantly understands the business process. It also requires someone who has a license, and there's 2 different types of licenses that can be used. And I will say that Microsoft licensing can be a little complicated sometimes. So I'm just going to tell you sort of the basics, but it can get more complicated, especially if you want to leverage the premium connectors. But Power Automate is included with many of the other Microsoft Cloud offerings, such as the Microsoft M365 licenses, the O365 enterprise licenses, and the Dynamics 365 license. It also is available separately if you don't have those on a per user plan of $15 a user per month. And then there's a more complicated one called per flow. Again, I'm not a licensing expert, and we just leverage Power Automate with the basic Office 365 enterprise license that we have. I'm going to take a stop and see if there's any questions. I'll stop sharing my screen for a minute and see if we have any questions before I finish. I saw that there were some chats, and let me just see what I have. I use a scheduled task to run a batch file to perform an additional process. I haven't done that, Kim, but you may need to turn that into an Azure Logic app, which is sort of at a whole nother level. I can try and research that and get back to you if you. Let's see, was there any other question? Yes. Do service accounts that are used for connectors, yes, they need to have, service accounts do need to have their own license. You do need to pay for an additional license for that service account. So so we have done that. You also on the licensing, you may want to, as you develop a more robust model, what we've done is we've paid for an additional Power Platform Administrator license, and that sort of gives you the ability to manage all the flows in your system on behalf of your organization. But again, to get started, you don't really need to do that. Let's see, did I get all the questions? I think there were just the 2. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm just going to go back to my presentation and just talk about a couple of more resources that are available. we've talked about in 2 weeks, I'll be back actually walking through steps to build 3 different flows. And hopefully you can join us for that. There's also, and these will be available, I think Monica or Criosa will send this out in a follow-up email. There's a program on GitHub called Power Automate in a Day that you could download, and you can use for training. It has everything you need to do the training. It tells you how to do it. You can maybe give it to a trainer network if you had one of those. Microsoft has an annual conference called Ignite. It used to be pretty expensive and require you to be out of the office for a full week. But last year with the pandemic, it was virtual and free. And I believe it's coming up again this year, maybe in March. So you might want to check out Ignite. There's lots of classes there. Also, Collab 365 offers free training throughout the year. And sometimes they even have a whole week dedicated to the Power Platform. Another great resource, I'm just going to quickly show on the Power Automate page is this Learn button that's on the quick launch. It will take you into this Microsoft Power Automate documentation. And there's lots of videos, how to get started, and other resources. In addition to the Learn, up here on the top right of the Power Automate homepage, there's a question mark, and that can take you to additional documentation, other learning resources, support, the roadmap for the Power Automate, a Power Automate community of other people who are using the tool, a blog from the Power Automate team, and you know, some more information. So I'm going to get back to my. So I think that's it. I will take more questions if people have any more questions. That was an awful lot in 25 minutes.
Certainly.
But I
Thank you so much, Catherine. That was a lot of information. I'm sure people will, you know, go. I've written my notes of what I'd like to try from what I saw during the presentation. I did, for folks that are on this call, I did post in the call the class that will be more in depth. There's the link in there. That's on the 27th. And then also there's just a 1-question survey. If you could take a moment just to fill out of, did you get what you thought you would from attending this? So I thank you all for doing that in advance. I know there was some typing going on, just some good stuff back at you, right? And Christy also shared that Power Automate in a Day is awesome. So if you're gonna spend some time doing something, but yeah, lots of people just thanking you, Catherine, for the great information that you've just shared with us. So hopefully we'll see everyone back on the 27th, so that really we can, maybe you'll play in the next 2 weeks and kind of see what you can do, and then come back with some questions if there are any, and I'm sure Catherine will go more in depth and get us really thinking about what a great tool this can be.
Awesome.
So, if there are any other questions, if people want to unmute and just ask them, that's fine as well. Very quiet crowd. You've got everyone thinking.
It was a big brain dump.
A lot of information. Yeah.
So, but I think, you know, I think those are the sort of questions I would have as I was getting started, and what you'd really just, you know, what do you need to know to get going, yes, and why? So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all. And thank you to Tyler Falcone from APSO for recommending Catherine and giving the time. Catherine, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us and the community here at the Tech Collective. And to Criosa Michelazzo as well for organizing and making sure everyone was able to get in, and just getting Catherine here and putting this up for us. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.